when I try to look back and see what have been like my biggest learnings in this impact journey so far, and specifically in collaborating and in collaboration. The first one has been being a leader doesn't mean you need to be in the front. And most of the time, your place is on the back, supporting others in getting the work done.
I met you because you were definitely interested in art.
Yeah.
And you always had like, I think like a curiosity to like talk to me, to ask me questions about like my creative process. I remember like one specific time we saw each other in an event, and you were asking me like, but where do you get your ideas? You had like 100 questions. I was like,
I always have 100 questions.
I'm like, who is this girl and why is she asking so many questions, right? We met like that. We met because we were both curious about creativity, I guess, right? From a collector standpoint, from an artist standpoint. And then the first time we actually collaborated was within that real estate project, right? And that was by accident.
And that was 4 years before I started the fellowship journey.
Was it?
3 years before, because you started your one class ahead of me.
Yeah. I'm older.
You are older, yes. Yeah. I hope it's visible.
Visible, yeah. I'm older.
So then...
Was it just 3 years before that?
Well, the launch of the project was in 2010, and I remember I started the program in 2014, so you had to have started in 2013.
Yeah. Wow.
And I remember after I went through the program, graduated in 2016, that I was still very, shy to be part of the country leadership as we're both part of the Central America Leadership Initiative, and that's a multi-country initiative. We have 6 countries in Central America. We're both from Panama. But in the local fellowship, I felt very intimidated. I was very young at the time.
You were. I remember I kept telling you, like, you belong here. You're like, you're here for a reason. You didn't like buy yourself in. You're here for a reason. But I remember the first couple of years, you felt you suffer from bad imposter syndrome.
I did, and I guess I was part of the 10th class. So prior classes, I felt they were very like in charge, very connected within them, and I didn't know how to start engaging until you became country leader. I don't know if you recall that.
Yeah, so I became country leader. So I was still at my seminars, and I remember I was with, Stace and a bunch of other key people, Harry Strachan, and we were in Nicaragua. I remember in CAI. CAI is this like the Harvard of Central America, right? And we were at the CAI campus in Nicaragua. And they were like, hey, can you come with us for 1 second? And I was like, yeah, sure. Where am I being taken? And they sat me down, and they talked for the first time about a regional. Like CALI has a regional event, and they were like, what do you think about doing a regional? And I was like, why am I being invited to this conversation? I haven't even graduated yet. But somehow I don't know why, but they thought that I had it in me to kind of like direct this type of thing, of initiatives. And then eventually I graduated. I did my globalization in South Africa, which was life-changing. And I came back, and we had a meeting, and they were like, okay, we need to pick a new country leader. So who shall we nominate? And everyone in the room went like this. But I didn't even have a chance of saying no, right? And I took it upon myself to do a good job. I was like, the Aspen Institute and the AGLN has been so good for me, kind of like honing my skills, because, lo and behold, I come from the art world, but also like the strategy world. And I was kind of like the first one of my kind to become a part of the fellowship. So I felt alone. and nervous, and also suffer a little bit from imposter syndrome. So I was like, this is my chance to fit in, right? Because I'm gonna, make this into a something that is more than just you as a fellow receiving information. And for me, it's all about like ecosystems and synergy, and how the sum of you and I make something that it couldn't be possible if it was only me, right? Or only you. And then probably like 3 or 4 years into my tenure as a country leader, I was getting married, and Natalia, my wife, should be a fellow herself, she was like, "You need to not do this on your own. You're taking too much. You're taking on too much responsibility. And I'm a business owner. Just got married. My art career, blah blah blah, doing a million things, right?" So one day, I asked. I think it was like in a chat group or something. I don't remember, but I was like, "Hey, you know, why do it alone? Who else wants to pitch in?" And you were like,
I remember. And I mean, for me, everything was a little bit new. So understanding we are a geographical fellowship, and our governance structure is not only our board, but locally they appoint, and that was your case.
yeah,
They appoint because not everybody.
because they point, yeah, they appoint figures. Yeah.
To have our local governance through a country leader. And the country leader is supposed to organize fellow-led activities and events to get the fellowship engaged and connected, to look forward to having more collaborative impact.
And it became very evident that the fellowship in Panama needed to be more engaged. I mean, everybody's like super busy. These are the people that are like, running our countries, right? So of course, some people might be like, I don't necessarily have time for this. So I remember we kind of like mapped out, like person by person, what bucket, they belong to, right? And we started like looking at them as clusters, and like, what can we do to get them re-engaged? What are the things that need to be fixed?
Oh, I actually started having conversations one-on-one. Like we divided the ones we knew, and we started having coffees, phone calls.
Yeah.
And then we developed like an annual timeline of events.
So it's probably that. We kind of like mapped it all out, right? I love mapping and seeing like from, 36,000 feet, like what does this reality look like? And we started making sense of what were the things that we could like quick fixes, what are the things that we need to work on, what are the spaces that we need to create. And it's very logical now that we were talking about this, because we definitely started with the why. Our country and our region needs this leadership program in able to solve the hurdles of the region. How we needed to fix this, we needed to strengthen our bond. We needed to know more about our skills and our hopes and our fears. And then came the what. Right, and that's when we came up with the CALI Day.
But now that you mentioned the why, I'm curious. I want to pick on you. Why do you think it worked so well for us to be able to collaborate that way? I mean, because it felt very seamless.
Because we're both curious about what are you thinking right now? What are you thinking right now, Ana Maria? Right, and it's like our inner child is driving the elephant, right? And we are always very curious and very playful how we can fix things.
I saw you as we talked first, an artist, entrepreneur, but then I started seeing you as a friend. I would also add that since we were curious to know about each other, we also understood, and quoting you, our superpowers, right?
Our superpowers.
And also our kryptonites.
And our kryptonite.
So I was very aware what you were great at, big ideas and the process to get to that MVP and what we're going to do. And then I'm very impatient and passionate and driven and want to execute. And I think that also like respecting and understanding the roles that we needed to play and when we needed to play them. Also, I don't know, I think it played a big part on having like this I mean, it started as knowing each other as humans, then we became friends, and then we transitioned into this partnership that started as me helping you do a great job as a country leader, and then came
and then we were shut
2020.
down. Yeah, and then we were shut down for a while. So I think, going back to I remember, because we designed this whole thing called CALI Day, right? Which now they do all over the region.
Our multi-class yearly meeting.
Gathering, right?
Yeah.
It has become a thing, and it has been, replicated and scaled, and it's still happening. So if it's still happening, it has been scaled, then in any business that would be a success, right? The first time we did the CALI Day, Ana Maria is the most detailed-oriented person that you can imagine. So we had all the merch you can possibly imagine. We had this thing that we remember the
thread
stringy
exercise.
thing. It was so much fun. But I remember I asked you to give the opening words. I didn't do it. You did it, because at that moment for me was very clear. This is what transition looks like, because we started working together. It was evident that you could do what I was doing better, faster, looking better, smelling better, right? So that day I was like, take the stage. This is your stage. This is definitely our thing. This is not my thing anymore. This is our thing, and it looks like you are, next in line. And it was just so organic, right? And I was so proud. I remember that day, I have pictures of that day. I have so many pictures of that day. And I remember looking at you and remembering this person was suffering from bad imposter syndrome 1 year ago, and now she's running the show. You were kind of transitioning into the Ana Maria that we know and love now, right? Because you have made the arc of your story has been very not only amazing, but you went from 0 to 100 pretty fast, because again, a year before that, she was oh, what am I here? I'm not good enough. And then you're superhuman. 4 or 5 years later, you're okay, I'm running the show, right?
But then the pandemic strikes. So as you recall, we did a meeting.
Yeah.
And fellows were invited to present ideas on what we could do in response to what we were going through. And you brought an idea on communication, because you were saying we're not understanding, or the government is not understanding our population, and that the more than half live off informal jobs, and the message was stay at home, and that was not understanding their reality.
Yeah.
And you're saying we need to educate them on if they need to go out because they need food on the table, they need to feed their families, how to do it safely. And it was a matter of weeks that we had rallied more than 15 fellows that had different superpowers.
Yeah.
And this national movement with more than 90 allies came alive, powered and championed by the private sector, and to support our government in their COVID response. And we ended up impacting 170,000 people with we had the home care program, we had the campaigns, but we also, when vaccines were available, helping to get herd immunity, helping also to open schools for students to go back. We managed to get, volunteers to do more than 1,400 hours of community work. We raised $3.7 million. We got an in-kind $6 million. And talking back on the theme of that first CALI Day, the power of the network, it was not only Panamanian CALIs working together, but the connection with AGLN. I don't know if you recall that through Hildegard Vasquez and Maria Luisa Navarro, we got to have a direct relief that was managed by an AGLN fellow, and they donated, they became our biggest sponsor. And the home care program that saved thousands of lives was thanks that they donated these portable ventilators that we could take home. So we were able to harness our friendship, our partnership, the other fellow partnerships, but it was not only contained to the Central America Fellowship, but also to the bigger AGLN community, and do it like quite fast, like no questions, like we need to act, let's act. Why do you think that happened so fast so organic?
So like I remember when the when the pandemic started, Panama had like a very strict shutdown. We were prisoners in our own homes. We had this we had this thing where like women can leave on like Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, and men can leave
for 2 hours,
and on Tuesday and Thursday for 2 hours, and
depending on the ending of your national ID.
It was insane. It was insane. And I remember like the first week of pandemic, I had what I now believe was a panic attack, because we didn't know what was going to happen, and as a business owner, you're like, oh, what's going to happen, right? But I remember like we started talking every single day, and we were both like, okay, so like the local response to the pandemic is not very good. You can see that there wasn't a lot of diverse minds on the tables, trying to design what the country should do. And I remember a lot of our conversations were like, this is where we activate our superpowers. This is the moment. I mean, like, we've been getting ready for this. We need to get our ducks on a row.
And would you say that being multi-sectorial was also like, you came
to of course. No, 100%, Ana Maria. So to give you a little bit of context, at this point, there was no vaccine in the future.
The world.
there wasn't anything, right? And we were already like in week 2 or 3. We had no idea. Our airport was shut down. You couldn't leave the country. You couldn't be on the road. You were forced in your own home, right? And I remember like, okay, there is definitely a communication problem. And this is a moment where communication is key, because we need to first understand what's going on. Second, understand what we need to do. How do we get safe?
And get proximate.
And again, exactly. How do we not like lose touch as humans, right? So I remember I made like a little drawing. Remember that? I made a little drawing. Like, these are all the groups that make up the social fabric of our country. Panama is a very small country, but Panama has always had a major influx of foreigners. So Panama has like a huge Jewish community, a huge Chinese community. We have indigenous communities. We have a lot of things, right? And they all use different nuances in their languages, and it's a little bit different. So we're like, if this is a problem of problems, right, we need to have a solution of solutions. So I remember we had a Zoom call, right? Well, like all of the fellows that have some sort of idea, it was like a show and tell, right? And my show and tell was, kind of like the DNA of what became Todo Panama, which was the thing that we started, which means literally the entirety of Panama, like all of Panama. It means all of Panama, right? Which is always also a joke that.
It's a slang also for.
Yeah. We use that like in Panama. Panama is such a small country. Like who was there? Like todo Panama was there. It's not really. It was like 5 people about it. So everybody loved the idea. I think the next day there was already like probably like 6 or 7 of us that came from the legal sector.
Yeah. That
came from education, right? So.
Volunteer
work. So right from the get-go, it wasn't just like a group of doctors. It was, a teacher, a scientist, a lawyer.
As many voices to the table as possible.
Yeah. We realized from the beginning of it all that we needed to do this together.
So I don't know if you recall that we ended like every presentation that when we were rallying up the allies, like, it's important what you can accomplish when it doesn't matter who gets the credit.
Yeah.
And just making sure that it was not about who was leading and whose face was at the front, but making sure that it felt that it was a collaborative effort, that we had a common burning platform, and the outcome was more important than who was the one running the show. I think that also was very, very important in getting the buy-in of the different sectors and in the different regions to connecting, and being able to have that level of impact. And even though the reason was terrible and horrible, it was a great example of the power of the fellowships.
Collective impact.
Collective impact. We were kind of that backbone organization, and we have one message, but we allowed all the different allies and our different committees. So it was not hierarchical.
No.
It was a very horizontal organization.
It was horizontal, and I do have to add that it was public-private.
Well, yeah,
in a way.
It was nonpartisan. It was apolitical.
It was nonpartisan.
But we understood and recognized that we had to work with government and local authorities to be able to get it.
I remember getting on
traction.
I remember getting on a car. It was like 2 or 3 of us, and we had to kind of like pitch the idea to the president.
Yep.
And that was
the minister.
The minister of health, and that was a great experience. And for me, that was just like kind of like a testament of what happens when you love what you're doing. You have clear boundaries, right? You have very clear boundaries. Like, this is, I hand it over to you so you can do your magic.
You trust.
Collaboration built on trust. There's never like any type of resentment or any type of expectation. We ground each other. I have this thing of like, because I've always been an outsider in the business world, and now, like politics, I always had this thing about like, why do you think you need to wear a suit or be in a boardroom covered in wood to make an impact, right? So we have these like walking meetings, and most of our ideas come from moving.
And from you sketching. And I tend to save all your sketches.
Yeah. I'm not the most creative person in the world. I can explain complex ideas to people. That is my superpower. I can be like this, and they're like, oh.
And now that you say that, you're using that superpower in the public sector.
Yeah.
And the Resnick Aspen Action Forum played an important part last year for you to make that decision. So, we both transitioned out of that collaboration. I ended up, coming from private sector, ended up as executive director of the Central America Leadership Initiative Foundation.
She's the boss.
I'm not the boss, but
the thing,
I am, And now you are a year into
government. Yeah. So
and what led you to, in your impact journey, what led you to take that decision?
For me, being here, it feels, I don't want to say religious, but definitely it's spiritual. This is for me a pilgrimage, and I think I can speak for most fellows. This is a pilgrimage. So I remember probably like in 2017, something like that. There was this like big like pledge board. Remember that?
Yeah.
Where you could like write.
We actually have one again this year if you want to write something.
I haven't seen it.
By the hub.
Oh yeah. So there was like these huge pledge boards. We love everything that's like, bold and grand, and you can kind of like write yourself into the equation. And I remember my pledge was by I don't know, by 2023, Panama will have a direction for the creative industries, for the cultural and the creative industries. And I am now the director of the national director for the cultural and creative industries. And that was something that I wielded into reality. And it started here, it started over there. Like I saw it, I saw that this was a thing that I could do if I activated all of my superpowers and harnessed the power of the group and harness the power of the network. This is such an amazing group of people, and everybody's just like, oh, you're doing this, I'm doing this. Oh, you're doing that, I can do this, right? So I was like, I'm gonna start, a ministry of culture and do this, right? And we did it, So last year, when I got asked by the local government who just won the election, like we would love for you to be the national director for the creative industries. And I was like, oh, yikes. Because I've just become a dad.
Father.
Yeah. I'm a dad of a 2-year-old, which is another podcast, but anyways. Now I was like, oh my God, this is such a, not weird, but this is such a hectic time. when I got asked, my daughter had just turned 1, so we were kind of like already started to sleep again and that type of stuff. And I came here with the question, like, I'm being offered this position. I've basically worked my entire professional career leading up to this. And if I do this, the things that we can accomplish for the country and for the region and perhaps the continent, they can be big, right? But I wasn't sure. I was scared, and I came here with a question, and hands down, when I come here, I have to say I'm always a little bit shy here. Like I'm not like, fanboying, people here. But I asked everyone I could. I think it was the first time that I was like really like trying to get into people's heads. So I came here with the question. I encourage every fellow, when you come here, have a question.
When I try to look back and see what have been like my biggest learnings in this impact journey so far, and specifically in collaboration, the first one has been being a leader doesn't mean you need to be in the front. And most of the time, your place is on the back, supporting others in getting the work done.
But making sure that there's the structure, the scaffolding to hold those new leaders up.
I would also say, even though there are tough and hard problems that we're trying to help solve, you can have fun in the 100%. Process if you're doing it with the right people that lift you up, inspire you. Yeah. So it's not a one-man show.
No, never.
Like the proverb, if you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go together.
Of course.
And from the key ingredient of trust, because I think none of our collaborations have been transactional. So they have been very more on, what we care about, what we see in each other that we can accomplish together, and then putting that forward and working in a community. I think that's also been an important learning from me. But I don't know if there is anyone learning for you in particular.
I think that there is a misconception of what a leader looks like. And it feels, a little bit alone, a little bit egocentric, a little bit maniacal at some point. But I think if you start with purpose, if the work that you're doing is driven by true purpose, then it never feels like work. Again, it's your inner child kind of just like being happy to be able to do what you were put on this earth to do, and that's what I feel that I'm doing right now. And when I do it with you, it's just better and bigger and bolder and awesome.